Hey everybody, it's Monster back again, and I'm here today with my friend Chue, who just got top 8 in this in today's actually core TCG online regionals. How was the event for you, Chue? I know that it was a pretty long one because we're finishing this up pretty late, huh?
Yeah, no, it was a good tournament. It's very long and draining, but for the most part, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be with this deck build. So,
No, for sure. How many rounds did you guys run for the event?
we ran nine. My first one dropped immediately, so
Hey,
technically eight for me. I'll take it.
yeah, we call that one the breakfast round, so you can eat and stuff and chill for a little bit,
Mhm.
right? No, for sure. So what
Yeah.
we'll do today for the deck profile, you guys already know we normally just jump into it, so we'll just jump into the deck profile, and then when we get to the end, we'll discuss a little bit of like some matchups, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of like the deck and some of the tech choices. But I'll let you take it off with either the leader or any of the cards that you want to, Chu.
Okay. I think everyone's familiar with Law, so don't really need to explain him. Just the shambles, all that good stuff. I run the usual package of the four Namis, the four Otamas, four Choppers, four the dance, very standard red cards,
For
just
sure.
weenie.
Are those uh
Um,
are those all the red one drops that you're playing for the list?
yes, these
Okay.
are all the red one drops. So I'll kind of get into the explanation. A lot of people run the Makino, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, she kind of slows it down.
Okay.
But the four Bonnies, four blocker laws, four restands. Oh wait, no, I do run some more one costs. But these are like the standards that everyone pretty much runs.
No worries.
Uh, and then I run the three Don Namis, starter deck Namis.
Yeah.
It just works really well against Whitebeard. Having two, you don't really see it. Having three is like perfect because four, then if your board just gets clogged with the Nami, she's kind of useless. So I feel like three is a pretty good number.
Mm-hmm.
And then we run the four Sanjis.
Mm-hmm.
I replaced the Makinos with the Sanjis just because it works better against Rebecca and Queen and pretty much Doflamingo. If they're stalling and you need to get some extra cards from life, and it becomes a 7K body versus where Makino is a 2K, but you have to have the Nami on board for her to be value
Mm-hmm.
to have value. So I'm not a fan of that, so I dropped Makino altogether just for the four Sanjis.
That's like actually really interesting because we were watching your feature match on the stream, and it actually came up really big in kind of the theory of the matchup, right? Like you had the Sanjis on board, and actually the reason that the Dofi player, I believe you were playing green purple Dofi, was able to get like a
Yeah,
little bit ahead. It was because they resolved a sugar onto your Sanji, right? Because it was like if the
yeah,
Sanji was able to resolve, you had an aggressive start to the game, but then you also had a little bit of card draw. So barring those situations, I can see where Sanji can be extremely strong for sure. So I like him a lot. And if you swap out Makino in that situation, Makino actually would have been a way worse brick to see than the Sanji, I think. So
yep, yep. And it's just not good in the Rebecca matchup because you can't put it down. The Sanji you can at least put down in the Rebecca matchup in the early game, and you'll be fine. So that's at least how I've been seeing it. So that works pretty well.
for sure.
For rush Zoros, it just helps to put pressure on the enemy, and if they can't get rid of your rush Zoro, it's on the turn after you drop and swing with it. I mean, you just get so much value from that.
Yeah.
So, yep. Just two of the Capones. I don't really use. I With the four blocker laws, it's not so much needed for that many blockers when you've got the choppers and then the Capones. So uh, I just run two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Vistas, I run two of those. It's just so good in the mirror matchup and against Whitebeard if they're dropping Fosas or Choppers. And then against Zoro, I swapped out the Nico Robin because she was a little bit too slow.
Okay.
And if you play against Zoro, you just get fire fisted, so you can't get much value out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Two rush Luffy's, very standard. It's just so good. You can sometimes I even used him, shambles it off of my law or my either of my laws if needed, depending on the situation. But I mean, just so much value. And
No, for
then
sure.
last card is just the one radical beam for defense. So
How
usually right at the start of the game, if they swing at me, I'll try to take the 2 life, and then that puts me into rad beam range. So
No, absolutely.
yeah.
I was gonna ask you, how does it feel running just the one event compared to running like any other events? Do you miss running guard point, for example, at all during the event?
No, I feel like putting the guard point in there, it kind of slows you down because every turn you should be using your Don efficiently. And if you're saving like 2 Don each turn for like your Rad Beam and your guard point,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing so much Don. And I mean, even having the Nami to give you that one extra Don, it makes so much difference.
No,
So
for
it's
sure.
like with the law, I feel like the guard point is good, but it's too dependent on what your opponent does. Whereas this build, it's all like, you want instant value, so you want to push and have them swing into your weenies. So if they kill your weenies, and that's kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you usually have the 2Ks and the blockers to handle whatever they throw at you. So
No, I like that. That's a really good explanation for sure. My last question, just about the build in general, before we get into kind of like the questions and the interview portion of it, was how was your top end? Did you feel like you saw it enough? Because I see that you were playing, what is it? It's 4 Resand Law, 4 Blocker Law, and then just 2 of the Rush Luffy. So that's a total of 10 boss monsters.
yeah, you see those plenty. So long as you get the Bonnie, of course. How I like to think of it is the Don. If I play the Don, I'm looking for defensive power. That's how I see it. If I play Nami, it's kind of like support and then a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense because you got the 2Ks and then you can search out your rush. And then Bonnie is just like, your top and like your full offense stuff. So usually when I play the Bonnie, I'm looking for like something offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of searchers. You got these two. You got this and this. Um, so a lot of my damage also comes from my weenies, which a lot of people don't realize is like if you swing with a Nami, 5K, that's one card out of their hand. And it's okay if she dies because if you have a full board, um, you need at least one or two open slots. So if
Mm-hmm.
they kill that, it's fine. You can put down a unit in place of that versus pitching this on top and losing one of your characters. So
No, for sure.
not being able to see the top end very much is okay too because I mean the weenies they get you a lot of value.
No, absolutely. Your deck plays low to the ground super, super well for sure. So, what we'll do from here is just kind of move on to some interview questions and everything. But before we get into that, if you guys like this type of content, you guys want to see more deck profile and content on the One Piece card game, drop a sub down below, leave a like, leave a comment, do all that stuff. It really helps us get on the algorithm, especially if you guys like this type of stuff. But my first big question for you, and this kind of ties into what I was asking before with like your boss monster ratios and stuff. Are there any changes that post this big event now that you've gotten to test this list for 8 or 9 rounds straight? Were there any changes that you know that you'll for sure make to the deck right away, just due to whatever happened during the event today?
No, I think this deck list is pretty solid. I like where it's going. I'm probably not going to make any changes to it right now unless the meta shifts. But right now it's pretty good. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
don't see any changes at the
there's
moment.
There's nothing wrong with that, and I feel like it's 50-50. Sometimes I feel like players will go through a tournament and be like, "Oh, this card I never used it during the whole event, but I still want it in for these situations and stuff like that." So actually, I've been hearing
Yeah.
more and more players just kind of say that they once you land on a list, kind of at this point midway through the format, that they just want to stick on it. So that's really awesome too. And then what were your matchups for today? You can either just kind of go through them one by one and just talk about like the colors, and then at the end we can talk about the kind of the ratios and stuff. Or if you want to go into like some key moments for each instance, you totally can too. But yeah, what were some of your matchups for today?
Yeah, so like I said before, the first match was a drop, so a free match. My second one was a croc. It was pretty simple with this deck build because I just dropped the Zoro on turn one, uh, dropped the Chopper. I mean, Chopper on turn one, Zoro on turn two. He couldn't get rid of the Zoro, so two swings on turn one. He pitches card, takes a life, and then he just downward spiral from there. Couldn't really clear my board. Um, Second match was a white beard. I don't remember how that went,
No
uh,
worries.
but I took it.
Whitebeard does Whitebeard things, but I've noticed that Zoro's
Yep.
really good at fighting into Whitebeard. So that's cool.
Yeah. This Zoro surprisingly is uh does well when you have this Nami, but when you don't, it's a little bit slow. It really depends on the situation.
Okay.
But I think the boss monster against Whitebeard is this restand law. So this is like the one card where I really want, because if I can get at least one of my supernovas on, towards that end game, if I just fold on and then shambles into the law, you get so much value because shambles only cost two. So
Yeah.
I mean, eight on anything else, and it's pretty difficult for them to handle. So
No, for sure.
um, fourth match was another white beard. I think that was the one where I didn't draw any of my searchers. I think I had a single curly, and I was running purely off of the Zoro and two Luffy's.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how I took it, but I somehow clutched it out.
Hey,
So
we got there. That's awesome. That's super awesome, man.
yeah. Fifth matchup, I believe, was against a law. Essentially, the Vista took it out. Um, I mulligan for the Vista, and I pretty much try to keep him alive the whole time. Shambles him in and out, in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the final turn, he dropped a chopper and a beige, and then I just Vista, hard dropped the law and then Vista again, and just swung for game. So
Gotcha. Okay.
that's one of the reasons why I kind of dropped the Robin. It was too slow because the opponent, he dropped two Robins, but I mean by that time it was too late, so I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even have to deal with them. So
Okay.
the next matchup was Kata. Kata against Law, especially this build, is very easy because I mean you're running so much of the Rush Zoro and so much pressure on them. They can't do anything. But my opponent in this instance drew into three big moms and a 8-drop kata at
Oh,
the start,
jeez.
and no triggers off life, so that was extra free.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Not being able to guard out of a 5K when you're on like 3 or 2 life is pretty telling. So I can imagine how that round went.
Oh yeah. The following match was another Whitebeard. Pretty much clutched it out with the Trafalgar Law.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he was trying to kill my Luffy, couldn't get to it, so he didn't even bother dropping any blockers.
Yep.
And he knew I had a restand in hand, so pretty much took it out with the Luffy. The game after that was the Dofi. That was the round that I lost. Yeah,
Yep.
no searchers that game, none of that. I just had the Sanji, the Rush Zoro, and I think the blocker law.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you can check that out on the stream too because yeah, it was streamed and that one was rough. That was rough.
you know, just couldn't get anything. Sanji got Punk Gibson into a sugar on the second Sanji drop, so just couldn't grab anything out of life, and he pretty much just stalled me out, and yeah, that was game.
Yeah, we were talking about it too, and we said that I think the biggest deciding factor on that one was just that you didn't see any searchers. That's really the number one thing, so you couldn't get those additional bodies out. There's so many times where if you would have seen, like, a Dodon into a Nami into a Luffy, you were golden, right? But that just never really happened for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's usually what would happen and be good, but yeah, sometimes you just don't get the hand you want.
For sure.
Typically against Dofi though, this deck I've had like a 50-50.
Yep.
If I can get a chopper turn one and then rush Zoro turn two, and he can't, punk Gibson me or something, I swing with the Zoro, swing with lead. And if he tries to hit the Zoro, just block out with the chopper or do like a 1 or 2K counter depending, save my Zoro and then, swing again. And usually that pushes the Doflamingo back far enough where it's like I can usually handle it. But that game was just rough. So
Yeah, I no, I get that. You did the best you could. I think you made a lot of correct decisions in that one, so no worries, man.
yeah. Last matchup was another Whitebeard. It was essentially the same thing. But that time I pretty much just played my Zoros and swung six at him. And at one point, he had a guard point 3 times into my 6K Zoro. So,
Okay.
you know,
You know, the
good.
pressure just
And
gets there eventually.
yeah.
No, it sounds like overall, it sounds like you played a lot of red, which is to be expected in these bigger events at this point. We've seen red top so much, so and I guess Trafalgar Law is technically kind of a red, but we've seen you had a few different MVPs just kind of from what it sounds like. So Resan Law sounds like he was very strong. Rush Zoro sounds very strong. Luffy sounds extremely strong as well. So did you have any kind of just like last notes on the event overall from the perspective of you piloting this leader?
Um, Not really. I'm just surprised. Like, I wasn't expecting to do this well against Whitebeard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I haven't tested this deck against Whitebeard
Yeah.
before coming into here. So I was kind of amazed how well I did against Whitebeard. Because
For sure.
I finalized this deck like maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Went to two locals and went 3-0 at each local.
Mm-hmm.
So coming into the tournament, I was feeling pretty confident, but I wasn't sure about the Whitebeard matchup.
Yep.
But no, I was kind of glad, I beat 4 Whitebeards today. So
No, that's super cool, man. And it's nice that you won every single one of your Whitebeard matchups. That kind of leads me into my outro question. This was going to be for anybody who's kind of watching this deck list and is either newer to the game or is just trying to get as much information for these bigger events as possible. It's going to be split into kind of two questions, but if you could give any tips for the Whitebeard matchup for anybody, what are your biggest tips? And if you could do either like tips or biggest MVP cards that worked for you, and then if you have any tips for anybody kind of picking up the deck or anybody looking to pilot it at this level, if you just have any general tips for anybody that you would give that are looking to play this.
um so specifically against the Whitebeard matchup, like you mentioned, I think the MVPs are the Nami and the restand laws. As long as you can get a supernova on board and essentially just swing six
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can until that end game where you just bowl out Don 8 Don on one of your supernovas and swing twice. The deck itself, a lot of people do when they play Law, they talk about counting cards and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't count cards. I just pray that I get something I need.
Yeah.
And if the only thing I keep track of is if I see a lot of supernovas, going down into the bottom of my deck, then I know I should probably play a Nami or Dadan first.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I haven't seen some supernovas, then I play Bonnie first because there should be like a few supernovas coming up. But in terms of like counting cards and all that stuff, I don't really bother doing that. It just kind of works for me.
Yeah.
And as you're counting cards, you're too focused on that where you're not focused on your current situation. So I usually don't bother with. any counting cards. Just hey, if I haven't seen a supernova in a while, play the Bonnie first, or if I milled all of them, okay, maybe I'll play a Nami or the Nami first.
No, for sure. I actually really like that advice because it really comes from a place of just from your experience, right? You said you took this to the locals and you tested it, and then kind of just from playing the event and from your perspective, I think that makes a ton of sense to just kind of like play what you can, right? If you're gonna be able to play and count
Yeah.
the cards and stuff, and still be focused on
Mm,
the game state, totally do that, for you. But I love
yeah.
that tip. I think that's a really great one for sure. But
Mhm.
and I guess my very very last point is, did you have any shoutouts for anybody?
Probably just Randy. He usually gives me the best law advice. He didn't help me with this particular build, but his instant value line pretty much helped inspire this build
Mm-hmm.
because it's all about going for that instant value and putting up pressure where when you put the pressure on them, they can't make the turn that they want because they've got to counter what you currently have on board. So shout outs to Randy for helping inspire this deck.
Yeah, we love Randy on the channel, so that's awesome that he was able to help you mastermind this, and I know that he helps a lot of people in Minnesota too. So yeah, shout outs to Randy, huge. But if that's gonna be all for the shouts out, congratulations on a top 8 finish today, and congratulations on just doing so good over 9 rounds. That's just fantastic. So that's amazing, my friend.
Yep.
Cheers.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me here, and it was a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. For everybody at home, this is gonna be Monster with Opus Gaming and Chew, and we're gonna be out. I'll see you guys later.